of the show from two different perspectives. So I haven't been down to Orlando yet, but in terms of some of the stuff that they're doing, they're not just dedicating one little section of the park to the maze, but it's actually going to sort of spill out into the main area at Universal.
That's so
pretty cool.
And you obviously, like me, are just a big horror fan. So I imagine like you want to get a sneak peek at even all the non-Walking Dead stuff, like Cabin in the Woods and, of course, Evil Dead. That's a franchise you've worked on, and there's going to be an Evil Dead maze this year. What are you sort of excited to check out?
You know what? We hit them all last year. I mean, we just went from one to the other. The Walking Dead maze was my job there. I was consulting, but getting a chance to go through all the other mazes, the Alice Cooper maze, and it was really fun. It was great. I mean, I love that Universal keeps expanding their brand. I love the idea of an Evil Dead maze. It'll be fun to see how they translate the cabin that was so iconic from the original Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. And listen, Cabin in the Woods, I love that movie.
Yeah, me too.
To me, all getting a chance again until they do a Jaws maze, which basically you just jump in and scuba gear and swim around. I'm in for all of them.
And they have the Jaws shark down there. They still have that in Orlando. You can still see the old animatronic shark coming out of the water. They should build something around that.
I know. One of these days.
One of these days. Obviously, we're talking to Greg Nicotero, who's working on the Halloween Horror Nights at Universal, which will be up September 20th through November 2nd. Obviously, he does tons of work, which I mentioned before, on The Walking Dead, the show. I want to talk about that a little bit, Greg. The zombies were a little less of a focal point last season with the introduction of the governor, but I know they're back big time in Season 4 and in great numbers as well. What kind of stress does that put on you when instead of having 10, 20, or even 30 zombie extras, you're dealing with double or triple that number?
Well, it's a lot of stress because we have a small makeup team. We don't have 40 people doing walker makeups and things like that. So it's certainly challenging. I think that we've continued to refine our process. So we've been able to do days where we had 150 to 200 walkers. And as you can tell, even from the Comic-Con promo, that there are gigantic shots where we see hundreds and hundreds of walkers approaching the prison fences, and so it certainly has been a big challenge, and I can definitely tell you that we haven't eased up. In Season 3, in the second half of Season 3, when we got really deep into the governor and getting Merle back and into the prison and all that stuff, the walker threat became less of a major story point. There was always walkers around, but they focused on some of those beats. What I love about Season 4 is that we're still keeping that threat real and that threat palpable, but learning much more about the characters than we have in a long time. I love learning more about Sasha, learning more about Tyrese, learning more about Michonne, seeing what these people have become. It's really a stroke of genius what Scott Gimple has been able to do in regards to steering our ship for some great character stuff and some great story beats. So I think I jokingly was referring to the Season 4 as like the greatest hits because we've taken a lot of the great beats from Season 1 and the great emotional moments that just tear at you and tug at you, along with some really good action sequences. And I watched the first episode with some crew people the other day, and the fact that they were crying and screaming within about a 30-second time period made me very, very happy.
Well, it makes you happy because you are directing the Season 4 premiere. What sort of teases do you want to give in terms of what we're going to see in that first episode back? We know from the Entertainment Weekly cover story and obviously the Comic-Con footage, they're more self-sustaining now. They're growing vegetable gardens and trying to live off the land a little more. What can you tell us about what we're going to see here, Greg?
Well, there's some great advances in all of our characters. Understanding and thinking about what what our people have done. You know, they've gone out in the world. As you can see, there are new characters and new people that have been brought to the prison, so they haven't completely shut the prison down to bringing outsiders in. You know, we've had a couple new characters that show up in the beginning of the season. And, you know, where we left Carl and Rick at the end of season 3 with Carl literally, you know, shooting a defenseless Woodbury citizen, that act had a tremendous impact on Rick, a tremendous impact on who he was and how he chooses to try to continue to survive in this world with understanding that he needs to take care of Carl and take care of Judith. I mean, I really believe that Rick steps up in that capacity and allows opportunity for the children to be raised in a world that is, in his mind, he's trying to shield them from the brutality and shield Carl from becoming something horrific and dark. And I think it's a great moment. It's a great idea. You know, and seeing where all of our other characters have come. You know, I mean, Michonne, what Michonne's done. You know, there's a council now at the prison where people make decisions about day-to-day life and how they want to proceed and how they will survive and how they can grow. And I love that idea. You know, what really excites me about this season is, you know, I think that we've delved probably more into the graphic novel.
Right.
There are a couple issues of the graphic novel that we're translating very faithfully, and to me, I think it's great because people that know the graphic novel, as soon as the episode starts, they'll know exactly what the issue is, and people that don't will find out even more. You know, we'll get into a lot of backstory about a lot of these characters, and to me, I think they're the best written they've ever been.
We're talking with Greg Nicotero, who does pretty much everything on The Walking Dead except the catering. He's also supervising the Universal Studios Hollywood and Universal Orlando Resort Halloween Horror Nights Walking Dead Maze, which will be up September 20th through November 2nd. You just mentioned a lot of moments from the comic. We already saw one of those in the preview, sort of. Scott Gimple, the new showrunner, likes to talk about a remix, sort of taking moments, and some moments you just talk about faithfully doing them. He likes to also switch them up sometimes. There's a big moment with Tyrese that happens in the comic book in the prison where he takes on just a giant gaggle of walkers. We say it looks like it happens outside the prison from that promo. He jumps out of the car. That just got everyone fired up when they saw that.
Yeah, and there's so much more to come. I mean, it's really amazing to me. You know, listen, I know the graphic novel really well, and it's fun for me to read a script and then go, wait a second, I know that beat, I know that moment, and then you go back and you look at the graphic novel, and it's just been fine-tuned or finessed just enough to make it interesting and make it feel fresh, which is great. You know, I always love the fact that Kirkman always says, hey, man, you know, if I would have thought of that when I was writing it, I probably would have done it that way, you know. So it's really a great opportunity to revisit this amazing source material and then watch it, you know, sort of brought to you from a different perspective, you know.
Greg, when we spoke a few months ago, I asked if you were going to be playing a zombie this season as you've done in the past. You said, well, you know, I'm a little busy now. I'm directing. I'm doing this. Maybe in the back end. Now that you've been working a little longer on season 4, what's the word? Are we going to see zombie Nicotero in season 4?
I'm sure I'm going to find my way. I'll probably wait till it gets a little cooler because it was 112 degrees in Atlanta the other day. We were shooting out in the field with a bunch of walkers, and it was the one day I forgot to put bug spray on. So needless to say, I'm literally covered in bug bites. It's probably the most uncomfortable that I've been in 4 years. So the director who's directing one of the upcoming episodes specifically asked me, like, hey, man, I have a great guy coming up. Can I, well, you're going to be able to be a walker, you know? So I'm sure it's in my future. I love doing it. Listen, I have a blast doing it. I really do love doing it. I've directed my second episode for the season. So in that regard, you know, I might have a little bit extra time on my hand to sit in the makeup chair.
I like the stealthy move move there on your part. It's a veteran move. Thinking about the weather. When I went down there and you turned me into a zombie, it was like 100 degrees. It was a freaking chase scene that then you didn't even end up putting in the show. It was brutal.
I thought you were. Oh, the first.
Yeah, beginning of season two. Beginning of season 2. Yeah.
Beginning of season 2 with Shane, and I know that was at one point supposed to end up on the DVD, but yeah, listen, the weather it's just part of the shoot now.
Yeah.
But I may wait till October when it's not quite so hot, so that I don't have to worry about getting so sweaty and gross. But listen, I love doing it. A lot of my guys have done cameos, because they're really good in the makeups, and they love doing it. It's pretty astounding that we're into season 4. I can't tell you how proud everybody involved with the show is, and to have an opportunity to come out here, in Universal Hollywood and see what they're building. It's just it really. It's something I've never experienced before, talking about Michonne's pet, and they're like, I also love the way that we translate what we would do on set. Like, as an example, Michonne's pets, we did, the faces were all practical, and we did the missing jaw gag, and then CGI, Stargate removed the arms. So that was the way that we did a combination of practical and digital. But, what I love about what these guys are doing here, and John Murdy, who's the supervisor here at Universal Hollywood, is, they come up with practical ways of doing it,
Right.
And, building backpacks where they can hide the performer's arms and make stump appliances and all that kind of stuff. It's really exciting to see how they translate what we do on the show so that they can do it every night for, 31 nights or however many nights it is.
Well, it's cool. You can check it all out. Halloween Horror Nights, The Walking Dead Maze at Universal Studios Hollywood and Universal Orlando Resort from September 20th through November 2nd. And like Greg said, different experiences at both parks. So if you're a Walking Dead fanatic, you got to go to both. And obviously, The Walking Dead returns season 4 October 13th on AMC. There it is. Greg, directed by none other than Greg Nicotero. Congrats, Greg. Thanks a lot for talking, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dalton. Great talking to you, buddy.
You too.